Inshallah ta'ala, tonight's talk will be very short, very brief, and very concise. So I humbly request only just a few minutes of your precious time, inshallah. My dear respected brothers and elders, first and foremost, Eid Mubarak in advance to you all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your efforts and your endeavors for His deen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your fast today, which was the day of Arafah. Now, what are some of the actions that we need to act upon starting from tonight before we head out for our Eid Salah? There are some sunnah acts that we need to keep in mind, inshallah. First and foremost, it was the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum that they would ensure that they would wake up early and engage in worship, because tonight is a night of celebration, and it is quite possible, and the chances of forgetting Allah and shifting our focus to everything else besides Allah is possible. And it is also quite possible that due to the excitement that many of us might end up missing our Fajr prayer. So that is why, to ensure that the attacks of shaitan do not work, the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum would ensure that they would dedicate a specific time to perform Qiyamul Layl and Tahajjud Salah. Very easy, very simple. Before the time of Fajr enters, just make sure that you wake up a few minutes early and just perform 2 rak'ah salah and make a deep dua and a sincere dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we don't know what if next Eid we're not alive anymore. So this is point number one that we need to keep in mind. The second sunnah that we need to keep in mind is also in regards to Eid al-Fitr. Even though this is Eid al-Adha, is just as a side note, I would like to mention that it was the sunnah and the habit of the Prophet ﷺ that he would eat something sweet before proceeding for Eid al-Fitr. But since this is Eid al-Adha, whenever on the occasion of Eid al-Adha the Prophet ﷺ would head out to perform his Salatul Eid, the first thing that he would make sure would enter into his stomach was the meat of the slaughtered animal. So for those of us who are going to be slaughtering our animals here locally, and for those of us who are going to be performing our Salat at 6 a.m., 6:30 or 7 a.m., and then we're going to head out to the slaughterhouse, just make sure that you try your best to act upon this sunnah, because this sunnah is lost. Because many of us, we perform our qurbanis and sacrifices where? In different countries. So we need to also revive this sunnah in our locality. And also, the Prophet ﷺ would perform ghusl, and the ghusl preferably should be performed between sunrise and the Eid prayer. At the same time, another sunnah that we need to keep in mind is that apply fragrance. Before you head out, make sure that you wear some perfume, some oud. If not, if we forget to do so, then Muazzin Sahib is here, inshallah, he can give you the perfume. Another sunnah that we need to keep in mind is that ensure that you use miswak. Not necessarily your toothbrush, even though it is permissible to use a toothbrush and the toothpaste, but just so that we can revive the sunnah of miswak, along with the toothbrush, ensure that you use a miswak also. Because the Prophet ﷺ used to use a miswak. And many of us have this wrong notion that it is sunnah to wear new clothes on the day of Eid. No. It is sunnah to wear your best clothes that you have available. The sunnah is not to wear new clothes. If someone has new clothes, that's automatically considered to be their best cloth. So of course he's going to wear that. But having the notion that it's the day of Eid, and I have to make sure that the clothes that I wear have never been worn before, or else I'm going against the sunnah. This is not a sunnah, this is a bid'ah. So the Prophet ﷺ used to wear his best available clothes on the day of Eid. Another sunnah that we need to keep in mind is that walking to the masjid if possible. If that's not possible, then at least park your car far away, a few blocks away, and then walk to the masjid, just so that we can revive the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And please do not block the driveway or double park tomorrow. At the same time, another sunnah that we need to act upon tomorrow is that to go to the place of prayer as early as possible and gain the reward of observing the salah in the first row. I understand many of us are probably not going to be going to work tomorrow or school, so that does not give us the right to wake up last minute before the salah starts. So ensure that we arrive to the masjid or to the place of Eid 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or 1 hour before, just so that we can revive this sunnah. Another sunnah which is very difficult on the day of Eid, it is mainly because we're tired, we wanted to sleep, we forced ourselves to come to perform our Eid Salah. We often forget to smile. And this was one of the greatest sunnahs of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You see, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they mentioned that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to smile the most from amongst us, even though he suffered the most from amongst us. Even though he was tortured, even though the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was abused physically, verbally, emotionally, right? He grew up as an orphan, right? They drove him out of his homeland. They ate the liver of his uncle Hamza radiallahu anhu, and he went through so much. They still said that he was smiling the most. So you and I, in comparison to the struggles of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, have not gone through even a 0.1% of what he went through. So we do not have an excuse to walk into the masjid with a frown that why am I coming in the masjid at 7 a.m.? I should have been sleeping. It's a day of happiness. It's a day in which we have to greet one another. And it is a day in which, even though we might not feel comfortable putting a smile on our face, ensure that you do so. It is one of the greatest sunnahs of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of course, do not forget your local masjid. Offer charity, offer some sadaqah to the poor and to the needy, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. The quality of the believers is what? That they spend their wealth when they are in happiness and when they are in sadness, when they are in prosperity and when they are in adversity. Regardless of their situation, they always spend for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also it is sunnah tomorrow that as we are going to the masjid or to the park or wherever it is that we're going to perform our Eid Salah, it is sunnah to recite the takbir, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Walillahi alhamd, as much as possible. Not try to limit the talking, whether it's in the car or at home or when we're walking to the masjid. Try to limit the talking as much as possible, and instead replace our words with the words of the praise and the hamd and the thana of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to make amal. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma bihamdik, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Jazakumullahu khairan.